from Taiwan, I'm Eric Allen. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Taiwan's political parties are again at loggerheads as Premier Tsai blocked 2 more bills passed by the opposition-controlled legislature. Tiffany Wong has more.
In a statement, the cabinet announces that Premier Tsai has decided not to allow a bill that would fund savings account for children to become law. The opposition-backed policy would have the government deposit about $1,800 a year into savings accounts for children until they turn 18, as part of an effort to address Taiwan's falling birth rate. The cabinet says the bill is unconstitutional, arguing that the executive branch, not the legislature, is responsible for formulating national policies. It also said similar measures are already in place, set to be implemented next year. But opposition lawmakers say the decision shows double standards.
这一个就很清楚地呈现出来它的一个双标，为什么呢？因为同一个时间之内，我们看到的是行政院他宣布推动的人口对策新战略当中有18项的一个措施哦。
On Monday, the premier also refused to countersign another bill that would ease restrictions on the government, political parties, and their affiliates investing in radio and TV channels. It's the 7th bill the premier has blocked by refusing to countersign since December, an approach that had never been used before.
我只能说这个行政院只要是不想做的不愿意做的，他就不部署，已经成为常态了。
Lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party say the issue is not with the intent of the legislation, but the legislative process.
2个版本其实同样都是在照顾只是各位可能会百思不得其解，朝野之间没有办法好好的来做一个协商这个是最可惜的一个地方重点就只有一个在野党认为说我要抢这个 credit 我要认为这个是我在野党通过了。
This is not the first time the premier has refused to countersign legislation, and with the opposition in control of the legislature for the next 2 years, it may not be the last. Luffy Lee and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
For more on the political deadlock between the legislature and the cabinet, Tiffany spoke with Lev Nachman, an assistant professor at National Taiwan University.
What do you make of Premier Tsai once again refusing to countersign legislation that's already been passed by the legislature? And why would he try to block this legislation that appears to answer to some of the same issues the cabinet is trying to address?
This is one of the most frustrating features of Taiwan domestic politics is that both sides, both the KMT and the DPP, will support something when they're in power and oppose it when they're not in power. Or they'll support something when it's their idea but oppose it when it's the other team's idea. With this bill in particular about trying to give money to those with children, yes, there have been versions of this from the DPP, and there's now this version from the KMT, and you have a lot of DPP commentators saying that this version from the KMT is a bad bill. And to a degree, that doesn't matter. If it was passed through the legislative yuan, through legal democratic means, then the premier should sign it. The premier doesn't get to pick and choose which policies he likes or doesn't like and then gets to sign. That's not how democracy works.
What does this mean for Taiwan's government function right now?
So this is sort of what happens when both sides of a political spectrum have a race to the bottom of who can obstruct democratic norms and procedures the most. Both sides are now sort of guilty of obstruction. You have this now tradition of the Blue-White Alliance stopping any budgets from passing. And yes, they just passed the budget this last week, but that was after almost a year of waiting. And in response, you have the DPP, and specifically the premier, refusing to sign legislation that was passed by the Blue-White Alliance. And both sides will just point at the other and say, well, they were doing the anti-democratic thing first, or their anti-democratic thing is worse than our anti-democratic thing, or our anti-democratic thing is actually protecting democracy, when the reality is all this does is sort of give more to the narrative that democracy in Taiwan is chaotic or dysfunctional, and ultimately this just hurts Taiwan both domestically and internationally.
A recent Economist article talked about Taiwan's political deadlock and internal threats to its democracy. What do you make of this, and who is watching Taiwan right now?
Yeah, so the Economist article was great because it really put the KMT and TPP under the spotlight of why they have not passed a budget, especially when it comes to drone spending. This is something that every American politician who has come to visit Taiwan has asked over and over again, which is just how are drones not yet funded in Taiwan? I think to a degree this article played a role in sort of pushing the KMT into actually finally passing the budget and some sort of drone policy. It also is it's also very not trivial that the local election is coming up very soon. And that also plays a big role into why the KMT and TPP are finally deciding to pass things, because it's really good for the KMT and TPP to look statesman-like right before the local election. So you really sort of have this combination of both international pressure and domestic pressure in the form of the local election that really pushes parties to finally get their acts together right before the local election, which is also all the more surprising why the premier would choose now of all times to not sign a bill.
That was Leib Nachman from National Taiwan University. U.S.-Iran tensions show no signs of easing, with a 60-day window for talks ending on Monday with no agreement in sight. John Van Trieste reports.
Hundreds of ships, thousands of sailors, all still stranded in the Strait of Hormuz as a 60-day period for the U.S. and Iran to settle the war expires. There's no prospect of an extension or of the two sides finding middle ground. U.S. President Donald Trump has now even threatened U.S. ally Oman as it finishes up a deal with Iran to get the strait open to shipping again. And Trump doesn't seem to think talks will go the way he wants.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Iran is holding its ground, saying its nuclear program is strictly civilian. But civilians are the ones caught up in this war of both words and weapons. Traders in the capital, Tehran, are just about managing amid inflation and disruptions. And threats Trump made Friday to bring even more economic pain have only inspired official defiance.
For a long time, based on our assessments of various scenarios, including the possibility that the United States might carry on with its evil actions against Iran in different ways, the necessary preparations and precautions have been put in place. Definitely, the Islamic Republic of Iran will use all tools and capacities to foil any new evil act.
The UN wants de-escalation, with a spokesperson giving this message from the Secretary General.
There is no military solution to this conflict. He urges the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States to resume negotiations towards a peaceful and durable settlement as soon as possible, to avoid military action, and as well to lower the rhetoric that we've been hearing in recent days.
But from flashpoints like the Strait of Hormuz, any lowering of rhetoric, let alone a settlement, looks elusive, as the question now becomes, what's next? Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The head of a drone company has been detained in Taiwan's first case of suspected national security violations involving military drone procurement. Prosecutors say the military reported that the company used components made in China, Hong Kong, and Macau. The firm won a contract to supply military drones last year, but the 8th Army Corps found suspected Chinese-made components, concealed product markings, and false certificates of origin during an inspection. This comes as Taiwan is working to build a non-red drone supply chain, reducing reliance on Chinese components. Investigators have confirmed that a Chinese woman was following a German scholar here in Taiwan. Jürgen Krem is a visiting researcher who looks at China's intelligence services. He was vacationing in Alishan in May last year when he says he was approached by a Chinese woman he believed to be a spy. Krem has previously described the encounter in an interview with TaiwanPlus. Taiwan's investigation bureau has now confirmed Krem's account. They say it shows how China is engaging in transnational repression, but could not release further details as the investigation is ongoing. Calls are growing here in Taiwan to block Foodpanda's planned acquisition by Singapore-based Grab.
Grab 不要再闪躲，请正式直接回答，到底有什么具体的机制可以确保这13趴的利益关系不会削弱 Uber 跟 Grab 互相竞争的原因？所以请公平会驳回并购，白纸黑字的法律都有人可以违反不遵守，更何况只是一句企业承诺。
Uber Eats and Foodpanda are the two largest delivery platforms in Taiwan. Grab announced the deal in March after Uber's failed attempt to buy Foodpanda in 2024. Local NGOs worry that Uber's roughly 13% stake in Grab would weaken competition between the two platforms. Some also worry that Grab's mapping technology could raise national security concerns.
Grab 它早在2015年的时候就把海外研发中心设在了北京哈，那它最核心的 AI 还有程式员识码到底有没有跟北京的团队这边去做一个切割？从来没有拿出一个可以让第三方所查核的一个证明哈。
Taiwan's Fair Trade Commission says the case is still being reviewed. A renowned European conductor has been traveling to Taiwan for more than a decade to work with a premier Taiwanese classical saxophone group. For years, their partnership has brought together musicians and showcased stories unique to Taiwan. Our reporter Sandy Chi has more.
A grand performance by Taiwan MIT Saxophone Ensemble, being led by renowned Swiss conductor, Lars Malekush. They're performing in the National Theatre and Concert Hall in Taiwan, where Malekush has returned almost every year for over a decade to work with MIT saxophonists.
It is this long journey, this process, which makes it special. Be part of this really special group, and also the friendship that comes with it. Of course, it's not just meeting and working together, but there has been a growing friendship over the years, and that makes it special. And so I'm always happy to reserve this 1 week per year to come to Taiwan.
Malekush began working with the ensemble in 2014 as a saxophonist, before later becoming the troupe's artistic director.
我们一直希望可以有一个有国际视野的一个音乐家，可以带着我们米特成长。那后来，我还记得在2018年的时候，也因为 Lars 的关系，我们一起到了克罗埃西亚的国家剧院。那因为他在我们的萨克斯风圈是一个非常具知名度的指挥家，所以也因为他的关系，我们在像这样的世界性的年会呢，就得到一个很好的舞台跟一个很好的机会。
The summer, Malekush again returned to Taiwan to work with the musicians. They performed many pieces together in August, one being particularly noteworthy.
这首曲子叫做《竹堑诗盛宴之序》，那它是为道卡斯族竹堑社的族人写的一首曲子。但是这首诗大概就是在介绍我们原住民族跟汉人的就是生活的一些事情，这样子。我只想要跟大家讲说，在台湾有一个民族平埔族，它叫做道卡斯族，要想要让这个族群能够让大家认识。
For Malekush, pieces like this make his work in Taiwan unique.
You can hear the water, you can hear the hunt when they go out in the woods, and also the struggles, of course, also when they had to fight for their rights and their land. And so it's a very unique and very special piece that I can only experience here in Taiwan, in this surroundings, in this environment. So it's very, very special for me.
Over more than a decade of collaboration, Malekush watched Taiwan's saxophone scene develop, and even the ensemble members see the changes.
其实台湾有很大的变化，不只是这个所谓精致的表演艺术这样的形态，已经越来越多人可以接受。那同时呢，我觉得萨克斯风这个乐器，它已经走到很多大众的生活里面。我觉得萨克斯风，我们会说它的歌路很广，就是它可以演古典音乐、当代爵士、流行，甚至台语老歌，或是台湾很多长辈喜欢的日本演歌。它可以演奏非常多不同形态的乐种的音乐，所以其实它是完全不设限的。
As the MIT ensemble grows more popular, Malekush and his fellow artists hope their long-lasting partnership will continue to bring Taiwan's musicians, sounds, and cultures to the world. Isan Chen and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks again for watching What's Up Taiwan. Follow us on social media to get updates from us in your feed. Finally, we head to El Salvador, where urban artists are creating large murals in streets once marked by gang violence. I'm Eric Dow. Have a great day.